Mantushudam, Mantushudi. Mantushudam tu janshudi. Taqas na goyad, baad azim. Mandi garam tu digari.
I have become you, and you me. I the body, you the soul, so that no one can say hereafter that I am someone and you someone else.
Welcome to Kalapriya and our signature Cultural Sundays program. My name is Mridu Shekhar and I'm the current president of the board of the Kalapriya Foundation. Our Cultural Sundays programming has the goal of promoting the importance and value of diversity through highlighting the diversity of India and the Indian arts that Indian arts represents. Diversity in language, religion, music, dance, food, clothing, and culture that persisted over many millennia and many invasions and varied rulers. The Foundation's mission is to present India's diversity through the performing arts, to preserve the traditional South Asian art forms that build bridges between the performing arts and our contemporary lives. Cultural Sundays was launched to create a community of people interested in learning and sharing the various aspects of Indian culture and finding relevance from global cultures to our contemporary lives. When we use the word India, we usually refer to the subcontinent, which now contains 8 different political entities. They bring a common culture with many diverse influences. Cultural Sundays programming is free to all, but we do need your support to continue this important work. Any amount will help us. You can find the link to make a donation in the chat box. Before I introduce today's program, I would like to share with you what we have in store for you for the remainder of 2021. It's a mixture of in-person and online programming. A brand new Carnatic music class will be started for families, taught by our own young musician singer, Sanjana Devrajan. For 4 Sundays in October, you can learn enough Carnatic music to sing for our Diwali event on November 7th. Both the classes and the Diwali celebration will be at our facility in the South Loop at 1925 South Michigan Avenue. We hope to continue the classes in 2022. We are also bringing in the fall, in October, award-winning Bharatanatyam dancer Maithili Prakash to perform a work-in-progress production titled She's Auspicious. It is a new production which is being produced in Chicago and LA will be taken on tour in 2022. What she tries to delve into is the conflict between the auspicious goddesses of India and the real life that women lead. Kalapriya and the Chicago Children's Choir will be performing a new musical production titled Good Trouble on November 19th and 20th at the Kehrine Center for the Performing Arts in Chicago's Austin community. This too will be available online on November the 21st for our Cultural Sundays community. The last program for the year is a play in English, When Things Fall Apart. It is a family drama from the Mahabharata. You can sign up to see it online on December 12th at 11 a.m. Now we come to today's program. I'm very excited to present to you the Sufi Gospel Project. Sufism and Sufi music are unique. Sufism proposes a spiritual dimension to the God-man union. Some scholars on religion and spirituality believe Sufism is a mystical concept that predates history, long before organized religion came into existence. It is claimed that the idea of Sufism has been expressed by Hindu and Christian hermits and later influenced by Islam. Nevertheless, it's safe to say that Sufism has blossomed in the structure and practices of Islam. Sufi music is all about unraveling the divine truth and building one's relationship with the Creator through meditation. Sufism made its way to India after 1200 AD with soul-stirring poetry and music from Central and West Asia. Sonam Kalra is a vocalist and musician who lives in New Delhi with her husband, children, and dogs. A person born into the Sikh faith, her mother inspired her to pursue music. The Sufi Gospel Project is her creation. She believes that the poetry and music of faith has one language and one voice. To prove her point, she has a musical ensemble that includes the faiths and music of various South Asian traditions. All religions have the same traditions of prayer, meditation, music, and poetry. All seek the divine and through devotion and brotherhood of man. Sonam will share with you her own journey and the varied music and poetry that has inspired her on this journey. Sonam, now on to you.
Thank you so much, Mridu. It's really so special to be able to perform for the Kalapriya Center for the Indian Performing Arts. Thank you for the incredible work that you do. Thank you for being a patron of the arts and supporting the arts, creating beautiful platforms for people like us, for artists like us, to share our voices and our work. I think you've explained it so well, but I'll just take a few more minutes. I won't say good morning because, as you can see, I have candles at the back, so it's good evening for me all the way from India. But good evening, good morning, namaste. Thank you so much for being here today, for being part of the music that I will share with you and the message. The Sufi Gospel Project, as the name suggests, is a blend of the many voices of faith in an attempt to try and create one universal voice of faith. Sufism is a way of life. It means an acceptance of all humanity and gospel, the truth. So when I was creating the Sufi Gospel Project, I was in the search of that truth of acceptance, and I wanted to understand what it really means to accept every truth as equal. And through the music and the message of the Sufi Gospel Project, I really just want to say that each of us has our own truths. And you can find that truth in a temple, a shrine, a church, or a mosque. But the most important thing to remember is that each truth, no matter where you find it, each truth is just as valid. And I have found through the research I have done over many years that across region, across religion, across time, people were saying the same things. And we often realize that we are all still, perhaps we want the same things. We want peace, we want kindness, we want brotherhood. We are all saying the same things, but so often we're saying them so loudly that we don't allow ourselves to hear each other. I've often said through the music and otherwise that the greatest religion is the religion of humanity, and that is truly what every faith teaches you. And through the Sufi Gospel Project, by blending poetry, prayer, and music from different languages and religions, this is what I try and say. I will, of course, as you said, I was born into the Sikh faith. And when I started singing gospel music first, I started singing gospel music. And I remember a question that I would be asked a lot is that why does a girl, an Indian girl who belongs to the Sikh religion, sing Christian bhajans, as they were called? And my answer to them was always the same, is that God has no religion and religion is not God. And I should be allowed to call out to my God in whichever way, whichever language, whichever form feels right. And at this point, gospel feels right. And it was quite special for me because I started singing gospel music and I started to get invited to many different places to share my gospel music. I got invited to the Dargah of Sufi Inayat Khan in New Delhi, in Nizamuddin. I got invited to sing for the Urs, which is the birth celebration of the Sufi saint. And I was asked to sing gospel music. And I think for me, that was when I felt the universe was telling me something. Because the reality of the fact that I am a Sikh girl and I was singing gospel music and I get invited to sing in a seemingly Islamic space, a Sufi shrine, I realized that I needed to do something that was befitting of the opportunity that had been granted to me. And I decided that at that point to try and delve into seeing if I could find a common ground. And the more I looked at our differences, the more I found through them our similarities. And that is when the Sufi Gospel Project was born. I will share with you, I will keep talking about this as we go on, but I will get straight to the music right now. I will share with you a beautiful piece that we composed We composed it for Coke Studio. For those of you who are familiar with Coke Studio, it is an independent artist platform, and it allows you to be far more expressive, perhaps, than the diktats of Bollywood. So Coke Studio asked me to create a piece, and I chose a Persian piece, which is not normal. I knew that it perhaps wasn't the most common language, but I really wanted to see if language could truly cut across the borders of region. And it did. And it says something very beautiful. It's by a poet called Hazrat Shahniyaz. And he says, Man manam, naman manam, which means, translated, it means, I am, yet I am not. The poet is saying that I am so lost in the love of the beloved that I am in this world, yet I am not. For me, it's also a reference to the presence of God, whom you can feel even though you cannot see him or her. But I think really the reason I chose to compose this piece was because of the last verse in this beautiful text. And in the last verse, the poet says, Isae Maryami Manam. Isae Maryami Manam, Ahmade Hashmi Manam. He says, Mary's Christ am I, and I am of Ali. And I always share, before I start to sing this, I always share a couplet that my mother wrote, which in many ways makes me believe that she was leading me to this path all my life, where she wrote, I'll translate, but I'll say it in Hindi first. She wrote, Guru mere saath khade hain. Guru mere saath khade hain. Ram yahi to hai. Guru mere saath khade hain. Ram yahi to hai. Allah bhi maujood hai yahan. Allah bhi maujood hai yahan. To kaun? Kahan se hai? If my Guru is standing beside me, if my Guru is standing beside me and Ram too is by my side, if Allah too is present here, then whose child am I? Man manam, naman manam.
आशिक बेखबर मनम मन मनम न मन मनम आरिफ बाहुनर मनम आरिफ बाहुनर मनम मन मनम न मन मनम मन मनम न मन मनम. In love, lost to the world I am. I am not, yet I am. A flame in love I am. Restless in solitude I am. With him, yet without him I am. Isai Mariami Manam Isai Mariami Manam Emade Hashmi Manam Isai Mariami Manam Emade Hashmi Manam Hedar Shere Narmanam Hedar Shere Narmanam Man Manam La Man Manam Man Manam La Man Manam Hedar Shere Narmanam Ali Mola Ali Ali Hedar Shere Narmanam Ali Mola Ali Ali Man Manam Na Man Manam Ali Mola Ali Ali Man Manam Na Man Manam Ali Mola Ali Ali Man Manam Na Man Manam 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 Ali Mola Ali Ali
So that was Man Manam Naman Manam. One of the things that I did when I was creating the Sufi Gospel Project was I decided that I would try and interpret Sufism in the way that I understood it. And I know that a lot of people talk of tolerance. It's a great buzzword. It gets bandied about a lot. Everyone talks of how we're a tolerant people, we're a tolerant country, we must be tolerant. For me, really, it's not so much about tolerance, because to tolerate still means to hold at a distance, to say, I will put up with you. But I think the word that we need to be talking about when we talk of Sufism is acceptance. Because to accept means to embrace, to hold near, to accept as equal. To not think that someone's faith or belief is beneath yours, but to totally hold it with the same respect that you hold your own faith. So I think acceptance for me is what was very important. And I went out in search of these texts of acceptance, and they resonated across the world. As you probably just saw, there was a text by Rabia al-Basri who says, from Iran, who says, many, many centuries ago, she says, in my soul there is a temple, a shrine, a church, a mosque that dissolve in God. Prayer should bring us to an altar where no walls or names exist. In my soul there is a temple, a shrine, a church, a mosque that dissolve in God. there were these beautiful texts and verses that I found everywhere I looked. And so I decided that I would not limit Sufism to the standard understanding of just Urdu or Punjabi. I would bring in elements from different religions, from different languages. And the next piece that I will present to you is a gospel hymn. Well, it's really more of a Christian hymn. It's one of the ones we've all grown up with, perhaps if you went to a Christian missionary school, but we grew up listening to it a lot because in India it's played on the Beating the Retreat on the 30th of January by our army band as well. It was Mahatma Gandhi's favorite hymn as well. He absolutely adored this hymn. And when I was singing the hymn just as the hymn, I often felt it was such a beautiful hymn, but I often felt something was missing. It is a plea to God to abide by one, to be by one's side. And it was when I started thinking about this plea that I found the words of 16th century poet Saint Kabir Das. And I found the most beautiful answer, and I like to call it the missing piece of the puzzle, in the words of Kabir Das's poetry. So this is my version of Abide with Me, with a little help from Kabir.
Abide with me. Fast falls the eventide. The darkness deepens. Lord, with me abide. When other helpers fail and comforts flee, help of the helpless, oh, abide with me. I need thy presence every passing hour. What but thy grace can foil the tempter's power? Who like thyself, my guide and stay can be? Through cloud, through sunshine, abide with me. I fear Ills have no weight and tears no bitterness. Where is death's sting? Where grave thy victory? I triumph still if thou abide with me.
मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में।
मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में। ना तीरथ में ना मूरत में, ना तीरथ में ना मूरत में, ना एकांत निवास में। मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में।
मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे
ना मंदिर में, ना मस्जिद में,
तो तेरे
ना काशी कैलाश में, ना मैं जप में, ना मैं तप में, ना मैं व्रत उपवास में, ना मैं क्रिया कर्म में रहता, ना ही योग संन्यास में, ना ही प्राण में, ना ही पिंड में, ना ब्रह्मांड आकाश में, ना मैं भ्रिकुटी भंवर गुफा में, सब श्वासन की श्वास में। खींचे हुए तुरंत मिल जा इस पल की तलाश में। कहे कबीर सुनो भाई साधो, मैं तो हूँ विश्वास में। मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में। मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में। ना तीरथ में ना मूरत में, ना तीरथ में ना मूरत में, ना एकांत निवास में। मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में। मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में।
The next piece that I will present to you is by a poet who is very, very close to my heart. He's a poet whose words were pertinent then, they are pertinent now, and I believe they will continue to stay pertinent for as long as humanity exists, because that is what he spoke of. His name was Baba Bulle Shah. Baba Bulle Shah was a Sufi poet from the Punjab. He wrote mostly in Punjabi as well. Baba Bulle Shah, for him, a love of God implied a love of all humanity. In most of his pieces, he talks of breaking these norms, of breaking these walls, of a world without labels that segregate and separate us. In this particular piece, he says, "Take me, my friend, Take me, my friend, to live in that land, to live in that utopia. I want to live in a place where everyone is blind. For if they are blind, they will not be able to discriminate amongst us on the basis of caste, creed, gender, religion, sexual orientation, anything that people find to separate us. For that is how religion works. It puts a label on you, and then it stacks these labels into little piles, and it stacks them against each other till one tips over, causing a domino effect of sorts, and we all know how that ends. So Baba Bulle Shah said, I want to live in a land where there are no labels, where we are just. We are all equal, because you cannot see the differences between us. We are all people. We are all children of the same God. We are all related through the most important way that we should be related, through humanity. So he says, Chal buleya, chal utthe chaliye, jithe sare anne. Na koi sadi zaat pachane, te na koi sanu manne. Chal buleya, chal utthe chaliye. This is in Punjabi. चल चल बुलिया चलो ओथे चलिए 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 चल बुलिया चलो ओथे चलिए जिथे सारे अन्ने चल बुलिया चलो ओथे चलिए जिथे सारे अन्ने ना कोई साडी जात पछाड़े ना कोई साडी जात पछाड़े ना कोई सानू मन्ने चल ओथे चलिए चल चल बुलिया 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 चल ओथे चलिए तू कवि ते तुम आ जावे मैं कवा ते छुरिया तू कवि ते तुम आ जावे मैं कवा ते छुरिया सुन ले भगत कबीर दी बुलिया सुन ले भगत कबीर दी बुलिया दो वे गल्ला बुरिया चल ओथे चलिए चल चल बुलिया 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 चल ओथे चलिए बुलिया आशिक होयो रब दा होई मलामत ला बुलिया आशिक होयो रब दा होई मलामत ला तेनू काफर काफर कहंदे तेनू काफर काफर कहंदे तू आहो आहो आ चल ओथे चलिए चल चल बुलिया 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 चल ओथे चलिए धादे मस्जिद मंदर धादे
धादे जो कुछ दिसदा धादे मस्जिद मंदिर धादे जो कुछ दिसदा पर किसी दा दिल ना धावी पर किसी दा दिल ना धावी रब दिल विच वसदा चल ओथे चलिए चल चल बुलिया 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 चल ओथे चलिए चल बुलिया चल ओथे चलिए जिथे सारे अन्ने चल बुलिया चलो थे चलिए जिथे सारे अन्ने ना कोई साडी जात पछाड़े ना कोई साडी जात पछाड़े ना कोई सानू मन्ने चल थे चलिए चल चल बुलिया चल थे चलिए चल चल बुलिया चल थे चलिए चल चल बुलिया चल ओथे चलिए चल चल बुलिया चल ओथे चलिए
So that was Baba Bulle Shah's beautiful poetry. The next piece that I will present to you is an example of how the Sufi Gospel Project just grew. It grew from being just about finding faith as opposed to religion. It grew from just saying that faith was the most important thing versus religion to also becoming something that needed a platform, that needed to speak not just of inclusion, of acceptance, but of using your voice for good. I think I read a text when I was looking at the introduction about John Lewis and how he said, get into good trouble. So the Sufi Gospel Project also became about getting into good trouble. And we've raised our voices many times for that good trouble, whether it was singing Hum Dekhenge, which I blended with the words of Rabindranath Tagore's Where the Mind is Without Fear, in the hope, as a message, for a hope, for a peaceful country, for a country where it is safe to raise your voice, for a country where it is okay to speak out for the voiceless, for a country where you must use your voice for good and for change. And this next piece demonstrates just that. It's based on the poetry of Pakistani poet Faiz Ahmad Faiz. Faiz Sahab was a revolutionary poet, and his poetry and his life all stood for everything that he believed in. He was a very principled man, and I had the good fortune of being able to sing for the first Faiz Peace Festival when I went to Lahore. And it was the most incredible moment as an Indian to be able to go there, to be able to sing for a peace festival. It was really very special to me. And of course, because I am such a great fan of his work, of his poetry, to be able to sing something that I had composed, his work, meant that much more. In this particular piece, in this particular text, Faiz Sahab says, "Speak out because your lips, they are still free. Speak out because your lips, they are still free. Speak out because your voice is your own. This body is your own and this life is your own. बोल के लब आज़ाद हैं तेरे, बोल ज़बां अब तक तेरी है, तेरा सुतवा ये जिस्म है तेरा, बोल के जां अब तक तेरी है." It reminds us to use our voice for good, to use our voice to speak out for the voiceless, to speak out when we see injustice. And whilst I do believe that the power of the individual voice is very, very strong, I really believe the power of the collective voice is what it takes to make a difference. And we've seen that across time, across history. We have seen this change happen. We have seen change happen when we all come together. So I took the liberty of adding a refrain to Faiz Sahab's poetry, where I say, Bolo ek awaaz hai hum. Say that we are one voice. Say that we are together and we will be heard. When we composed this song, we created a video, and I would like to actually share this video with you as well while I sing this live. So I'm going to actually ask my team member to, in just a few seconds, when I give her the go-ahead, to share the video with you as well.
बोल के लब आजाद हैं तेरे, बोल ज़बान अब तक तेरी है, तेरा सुतवा जिस्म है तेरा, बोल के जा अब तक तेरी है, बोल के लब आजाद है तेरे, बोल ज़बान अब तक तेरी है, सुतवा जिस्म है तेरा, बोल के जा अब तक तेरी है, देख के आहंगर की दुकान में तुंद है शोले, फूलों के दहाने फैला हर एक जंजीर का दामन, बोल के लब आजाद है तेरे, बोल ज़बान तक तेरी है, एक आवाज़ है हम, बोलो एक आवाज़ है बोलिए थोड़ा वक्त बहुत है जिस्मो ज़बान की मौत से पहले बोल के सच जिंदा है अब तक बोल जो कुछ कहना है कह ले बोल ये थोड़ा वक्त बहुत है जिस्मो ज़बान की मौत से पहले बोल के सच जिंदा है अब तक बोल जो कुछ कहना है कह ले बोल के लब आजाद है तेरे बोल ज़बान तक तेरी है एक आवाज़ है हम बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम ज़बान तक तेरी एक आवाज़ है हम एक बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम एक आवाज़ है हम एक बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम
I'm going to be doing two more very quick pieces for you. The next one is, I noticed that someone from Canada has actually asked a question. The next one is by a wonderful singer, songwriter, poet, to my mind, Leonard Cohen from Canada. And it's a song that really resonated with me. And as I said, when I started looking for resonances of this truth of acceptance, I stopped only looking in ancient texts and sacred verses. I started finding them in conversations I might have with friends in contemporary poetry, everywhere I looked. And I found this resonance in the words of Leonard Cohen. But of course, we added a Sufi gospel project twist. So this version of Hallelujah really just says something very simple, that many different hallelujahs, many different calls to God can and must exist in harmony.
I heard there was a secret chord that David played, and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do ya? Now it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the bass Your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her there upon the roof, her beauty and the moonlight overthrew you. Delilah tied you to a chair. She broke your throne and she cut your hair, and from your lips she drew You say I took his name in vain. I do not even know which name the holy dove was moving up above you. There's a blaze of light in every word. It doesn't matter which you heard, the holy or the spoken. Maybe I've been here before. I know this room and I've walked this floor. I used to live alone before I knew you. Now I've seen your flag on the marble arch. Our love is not a victory march. It's when every breath we draw is hallelujah. 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 There's a God above I cannot see and I cannot touch, but I know that there's a truth when I can feel ya. and it's not a cry you hear at night. It's not someone who's seen the light. It's a true and it's a broken hallelujah. 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 Allahu, 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 Allahu.
मन कुन तो मौला मन कुन तो मौला मन कुन तो मौला मन कुन तो मौला
I hope you're enjoying this, and I hope this is in some ways helping you connect to Sufism a little bit more and to understand what I'm trying to say with the Sufi Gospel Project. I'm going to leave you with my very favorite poet again, Baba Bulle Shah. And in this particular piece, Baba Bulle Shah says another lovely thing. He says that my teacher has taught me a wonderful lesson. मेरे गुरु ने मुझे एक बहुत ही बढ़िया नुक्ता पढ़ाया है. My guru has taught me a wonderful lesson that my temple, my shrine, my church, my mosque is not within the four walls of a building, but within the walls of my heart and within the walls of the heart of the person sitting right next to me. And he says, now that I have this knowledge, I will wear my ankle bells and I will dance. And interestingly, when we talk of dance, we see that dance is something that is common across religion and faith. Clapping in gospel, getting up to dance. In the Bhakti tradition, getting up to dance. In Sufism, whirling. The reason for dance is that it is such a deep, cathartic revelry. It is a surrender from so deep within, where you allow your soul to surrender to the divine from the deepest possible core. I remember asking a whirling dervish when we were performing in Egypt, I said, don't you get dizzy? Because ballet dancers and Kathak dancers, when they turn, when they twirl, they're spotting, at least they're looking at a spot every time they complete the circle. What about you? Your eyes are closed. And he gave me such a beautiful answer. He said, of course we spot. He said, I spot my God in my heart. I think of the divine in my heart and in my head, and I never ever lose my balance. And that's such a beautiful analogy for life as well. If you continue to spot your belief, you won't lose balance. So in this particular piece, Baba Bulle Shah says that my teacher has taught me a wonderful lesson, that my temple, my shrine, my church, my mosque is not within the four walls of a building, but within the walls of my heart and within the walls of the heart of the person right next to me. And now that I have this knowledge, I will get up and dance. This is a piece we composed. It's in Punjabi. It's in a little bit in Persian. We also collaborated with a Rajasthani musician when we were composing this because I wanted to bring in a folk element. But I thought that was not enough. I wanted to make the world feel like, through the music, even more interconnected, even more of a smaller, tighter, more inclusive place. So I asked my very traditional musicians who play the sarangi, the flute, the bansuri, the tabla, all of which you've heard. They're unable to be with me, of course, because we are still being careful. But I asked them to play their instruments like they were Irish. So we have a whole sense of Irish music. And that's really one of the other things I wanted to show through the music, that the only rules and the only walls we put, the only boundaries we put, are man-made. Once you decide to live free of those boundaries, really the world is one large, seamless family. And so, Alfat in bin, un bin, an bin, nukta yar padhaya re.
अल्फतेन बिनोन बिनन बिन नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया 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 नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया सानू राजू शब्द सिखाया नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया सानू राजू शब्द सिखाया अल्फतेन बिनोन बिनन बिन नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया अल्फतेन बिनोन बिनन बिन नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया सानू राजू शब्द सिखाया नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया सानू राजू शब्द सिखाया अल्फतेन बिनोन बिनन बिन नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया अल्फतेन बिनोन बिनन बिन नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया धर्मनस्तुः अल्लाह 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 आंखें बुले शाहर वन तारे आंखें बुले शाहर वन तारे बिस्ती नाम धराया आंखें बुले शाहर वन तारे बिस्ती नाम धराया बंद कर चेहरा चम 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 बंद कर चेहरा चम 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 सानू रुठड़ा यार मनाया अल्फतेन बिनून बिनन बिन नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया अल्फतेन बिनून बिनन बिन नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया सानू राजू शब्द सिखाया नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया सानू राजू शब्द सिखाया अल्फतेन बिनून बिनन बिन नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया अल्फतेन बिनून बिनन बिन नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया दिम तदिम तनना देरे दानी दिम तदिम तनना देरे ना दिम तदिम तनना देरे दानी तनना देरे दानी तनना देरे ना सनी सा सा सनी सा सा पनी सा रे रे सनी गा गा सनी सा 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 सनी सा 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 पनी सा रे रे सनी गा गा करे गा गा करे गा गा सरे गा मा मा गा मा मा रे रे करे गा 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 करे गा 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 सरे गा मा मा गा मा मा रे रे सनी सा 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 सनी सा 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 पनी सा रे रे सरे गा गा सनी सा 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 सनी सा 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 पनी सा रे रे सरे गा गा करे गा मा मा गा रे नी रे सनी धा नी सा करे गा मा मा गा रे नी रे सनी धा नी सा गा मा रे सनी रे सनी धा नी सा गा मा रे सनी रे सनी धा नी सा सनी धा नी धा प धा प मा प मा गा रे सनी सा सनी धा नी धा प धा प मा प मा गा रे सनी सा सनी धा नी धा प धा प मा प मा गा रे सनी रे सा अल्फतेन बिनून बिनन बिन नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया 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 धर्मनस्तु अल्लाह 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 धर्मनस्तु अल्लाह
Thank you so much. That brings me to the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Mriduji, for asking me to share this.
That was so wonderful, Sonam. It's just a Sunday morning. We're just enjoying our day and listening to some wonderful music and ideas to start the week at peace and at peace with the world and with hopefully more charity to it. And
Yes,
coming
I
at this time when so much is not quite right, you are really a voice of hope. And thank you again. I wanted you to know that many of our people, we post these on our website, the videos, and it'll be available. And so many of the people who couldn't join us today will be invited to take a look at the program.
I totally understand how difficult it is to wake up on a Sunday morning. So
No, but we try to time it in such a way that we could get you at a decent hour. So this is not unexpected, but I think I wanted the people to know that we will be posting it, and you can come and listen to it carefully and watch and listen to the poetry. And I think it's important to repeat these ideas, however horrible the world around us may seem, to make it feel better. I had one question. How did Qawwali enter into Sufi music?
So I'm not a historian, and I'm not going to pretend I know the answer to that. But really, I actually am not going to know the answer to that. But I do know that the Qawwal Bachchas were a large part. I mean, kaval really means it's a call to God, the call. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm not sure how it entered, so I'm not going to answer that.
Because
You can
sometimes
ask
when
me.
we talk of Qawwali music, it's a joyful, it's obviously,
So it is in a sense it is celebratory. It is always considered to be celebratory. It is exactly what I said about going into a sense of junoon, of allowing yourself to sort of surrender from deep within, which is why there's the clapping of hands. And I was in fact talking about this clapping of hands. You see that in gospel. So that
Yeah.
similarity I can talk to you about, where you see this sense of just losing yourself. And the reason you clap, the reason you even touch your body or you whirl is to just allow your entire body to pretty much leave itself, so that you actually feel a connection deep within the soul. And traditionally, of course, qawwalis would happen in the mosques, and they still do. But now, of course, they've become an art form where they are performed. They are performed on stages, which is a great way, and it seems to have popularized it not just in Bollywood, but it's popularized it in whatever it takes to popularize this form. And of course, it was Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan Sahab who really brought qawwali to a popular to the masses. It was always happening before that, but I think Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan Sahab really popularized it, and we have him to be very thankful to for that.
It is that people get into a trance almost,
Yeah,
So I think
yeah.
but thank you so much for introducing us to this, you know, this music that is somewhat not as popular in the West as I would like. I see that there's somebody from South Africa who signed up, and
Oh, Abbas, thank you. Abbas, thank you. Anya, thank you. Jessica, thank you. Lily, thank you so much for, enjoying the music. And if I may, Mriduji, Lily mentions, the events of 1947. And Lily, perhaps you'd be interested in knowing when I started the Sufi Gospel Project, as I said, it was really just about a more contemporary understanding of Sufism. I felt it was too far removed from the common man. I really wanted, as an Indian who's grown up in a secular India, I wanted to explore it in my own way. And we speak many different languages. We're exposed to many different beliefs and faiths. So I felt Sufism should encompass all of that. But eventually, the Sufi Gospel Project and the way it changed me in creating the project, I found when I crossed the border to go to Pakistan to sing. It was a very defining moment for me when I had my foot on either side of the border of this lakir, of this line. And I remember weeping because I thought, you have just drawn a line across the hearts of one family, and that's it. And we're supposed to never feel anything for each other again. And that led to another performance, which of course I've spoken to Mriduji about, and it's called Partition Stories of Separation, which is a multidimensional experiential performance where I have oral testimonials of survivors, and I have composed the poetry of poets of that time. And we worked with an artist, so we have an installation on stage, and hopefully one day when things are better, I'll get a chance to bring it across. But truly it carries with it also a very simple message that let us talk, let us keep the dialogue open. And it also says that it tries to see partition through the eyes of humanity and not the eyes of politics and not the eyes of academia, which leave it so cold, but just through the eyes of humanity, saying that we were both equally hurt on both sides, and we were a family that was torn apart. And what does it feel like to go from belonging to no longer belonging, and the sense of grief and trauma that all those who left had to leave their homes, and the hope that they carried with them their whole lives that they could one day go back. That we've explored all of those themes, and we've actually been able to collect so many postcards of peace, that hopefully one day we can build an installation and a wall of peace of partition, and in memory of partition.
Sonam, on August the 15th, the Cultural Sundays program had it was the partition through the artists of Pakistan and India. And
Yes.
We had two curators who discussed that. And, the person I met you through, Gunita,
Yes.
talked about the partition archives. So those of you who were not there for the Cultural Sunday on August 15th, look up on our website. It's called Drawing the Line and Connecting the Circle. And what the artists have done is, artists who have created art after the partition, while they may say that it hasn't affected them, actually has affected them. And it comes out in their art. And, but
I think it's impossible.
What is important is that those of us who are living all over the world cannot carry those lines with us, cannot carry those divides with us. And I'm afraid that, as more and more generations are born outside of India, where, of course, they're experiencing the hate and so on, but who are growing up outside have to have a better history and a better understanding of actual, the factual history, not the one that's been created.
And Mriduji, we've been through the last few years. I think we've seen that the narrative globally of label, of hatred, has been growing. So I feel it's that much more important, that much more pertinent for us to talk about of removing these walls, of removing these labels. That is why I feel the music and the message is important. It's important for us to learn from history when it comes to partition. It's important for us through, say, the Sufi Gospel Project or other people who are trying to say the same thing through their art. It's important for us to keep this conversation of equality, of inclusion, and I say acceptance and not just tolerance alive. It's very important that we discuss it with our children, we discuss it with future generations, we discuss it amongst ourselves, because sometimes we don't even realize that within ourselves, what is brewing, and we need to tackle it at the very core and be allowed to. The more we talk about it, the chance of our mindset changing, if we have a negative mindset, is greater. But if we don't talk about it, or for people who say, I don't discuss politics, that's irresponsible. It's irresponsible, because I'm not saying you have to discuss politics, but you have to talk about the world because you belong to the world. And as a citizen of the world, it is your moral responsibility to talk about the world and to try. And even if you're here for however long you are here, give back good. As John Lewis said, I'll go back to good trouble.
Well, we will have that online too. So we'll see, little drops make a difference. And I thank you all for joining us today. And Sonam, thank you very much for a wonderful hour of music and poetry and philosophy. And your team, I wish we could have them here, because when they're on stage, they look so fantastic.
No, we hope one day we can travel to you and come and share this. And I think someone from Malaysia, Rafiq Juma Boy, has just joined. Yeah. So thank you so much. Omji, I will write to you. I see your message. I will write to you. But Mridu, really, really so much gratitude to you, not just for having me come and share my music, for all that you do to keep the arts alive and to keep these dialogues and conversations alive. As I said, these are the most important things. We have to hashtag let's talk. We have to hashtag this conversation.
And hashtag let's sing.
Let's sing, let's talk, let's change the narrative through the arts. We know that is the only way we can break down the walls and we can reach each other in a really deep way without preaching, without talking down at to someone. So we really must, and thank you for all the work that you do and for the incredible work that Kalapriya does. Thank you, Mordian, for being so amazing with the tech. I'd like to thank my team member Arshi, who's sitting here with me, who's been so amazing as well. So thank you.
And thank you. Difficult time, all of you.
Exactly. And thank you to each one of you who joined. Thank you to those of you who perhaps will see this program. Thank you for being part of my music, and thank you for sharing with me.